Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Aslina, I am Derek Ano. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Joe, what do we have on tap for our half episode?
So today there is no top five list. We decided that we were going to go in this direction. It is a little bit of the NFL, NFC, and AFC championship games that will be on Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. And we are also going to talk a bunch about these are the games and of course our predictions. But also, I want to say that we will be talking about some Major League Baseball as there's been signings and trades as we thought were coming. And the floodgates are starting to open a little bit, not completely, but there is some stuff happening. So, hot stove talk in our second segment of today's shorter episode, as Derek calls
Yes,
the quickie episode.
half episode. So to start,
Right.
obviously, so with our interview we had in the beginning of the week, for those that missed it, feel free to check it out. It was a great interview with Joe's cousin Dan Villani. We haven't talked about the recap of the four divisional playoff games. We're going to do them very briefly. Obviously, you've probably seen about them so far. Um, Joe, the first game between the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens, um, that finished 17-3 in Buffalo's favor. Uh, Joe, I guess, I mean, it didn't help that Lamar Jackson got hurt, but not really much happened in the game. There was not a lot of offense in that game, at least.
Right. I think it just showed you both teams how they're trending. The Bills with Josh Allen, he looked really strong. The defense even played good because the Ravens only scored 3 points. And yeah, even though Jackson got hurt, he didn't look that great when he was in there. They seemed to know what was coming, and it just seemed like they
Yeah.
scouted and the coaches were so good. But yeah, that was actually a final score of 17-3 Bills. And I don't really have too much to say about it, except for Buffalo is moving on and Baltimore has to look to next year.
Yeah, they didn't really and you wonder why more people don't do that. Just try to shut down the running game and don't let Jamar or Lamar Jackson run the ball and make him throw the ball. That's what they did, and they couldn't really do too much. Um so Buffalo moving on, and we'll talk about who they're facing in just a little bit.
And then you go to the NFC, and this game is going to be uh, the winner of this team and facing the winner of the other game is going to be faced off at 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. And it's actually Derek's favorite team in the Green Bay Packers, and they actually play the St. Louis Rams. And just a couple thoughts, Derek, of what you saw out there in Lambeau Field.
LA Rams.
I'm sorry, the LA
I've
Rams.
screwed that up enough,
Oh
but
man,
um
My-
well, the number one defense couldn't really shut them down. Uh, Aaron Donald didn't play a ton, but the time he was in there, they just couldn't really either stop Aaron Rodgers or the running game. The Packers finally got a three-headed monster going, kind of. Three different guys had over 20 yards, I believe, and it's going to be tough to stop them. They couldn't really shut down Adams and Goff, for all those stats I threw out there of him playing crappy in frozen weather. He actually did pretty decently for what, no Cooper Cup and everything. So um yeah, the Rams. So talking up that NFC West division, all those strong teams, all of them bowed out pretty quickly. So uh, Packers move on and into the championship week, as you said, at 3 o'clock on Sunday. So the Bills will be playing. They were playing the winner of the Chiefs and the Browns game. Got a little scary for Kansas City when Patrick Mahomes dropped out with a concussion. just got word today that he is, and we'll get into that a little bit, that he is looking to play. So Browns almost had it. They played pretty well defensively, but just couldn't quite come up with the win. Down 20, lost 22-17 at Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, you're going into the defending Super Bowl champs home field. And even though there's not a lot of fans, it's still an advantage for
Yeah.
that. I always say for that team to be out there and not having to travel. The Browns had to travel. I thought the skill positions, especially Tyreek Hill, I think Demarcus Robinson, they have McCole Hardman. Those guys just make plays, and Mahomes knows how to get the ball to them, and Travis Kelce. Um, it was interesting when he got hurt. Chad Henne had to do some things. He did them, and the
Yeah.
Browns had their shot. But Kansas City showed and flexed the muscles that they needed to do uh, to come away with another win. And we'll talk about them in a little bit. But good job, Kansas City. You just did what you had to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that brings us, Derek, to the last game, and the winner of we said was Green Bay in the first NFC game, and it was the Tom Brady led Tampa Bay Buccaneers facing off against the Drew Brees New Orleans Saints. And I don't know if you saw the viral video though that Tom Brady came out after the game, hugged Drew Brees and his wife, and played a little football with his sons. I thought that was cool. Um, I still will say that people that don't like him are never going to like him. It is the way it is, but he's still great. And like Dan talked to us last week, greatness is greatness. Talk about a little bit what you saw out of Tampa Bay, and we won't get into the Packers, but just what you saw on the field last Sunday night.
Yeah. I talked about how they needed to get the running game going, and they did. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette both ran for over 60 yards. And they didn't turn the ball over, and that's what happened with New Orleans. They 3 interceptions for Breeze, whether they were his fault or not. And then a big fumble by Jared Cook that kind of turned the tide a little bit. It kind of sad. You kind of realize that this is probably it for Drew Brees, is based on the expressions and everything on his face. So great career for Drew Brees. You wonder where they go from here. Do they pass it on to Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston, who had a big touchdown pass there in this game? But Tampa Bay, after losing the first 2 games in the regular season, won this third one, and they're the one moving on to the NFC Championship game. And Tom Brady did it in his first season, Joe. First season with the new team, and they're already in the championship game. So definitely will be a good one. But first, we will talk about the AFC Championship game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. So that game is actually the second game on Sunday. It's going to be played at 6:40 on CBS. And I believe the Chiefs are right now a 3-point favorite. I don't know if that was including Mahomes to begin with. I'd assume the Bills would be favorites if they thought Mahomes wasn't playing. So I don't think it'll move too much. But Joe, obviously, the two teams played in week 6 with the Kansas City Chiefs coming out with the victory. You'd have to wonder if it'll follow a similar storyline, but that was at Buffalo, 26-17. The Chiefs ended up winning. Jared Allen,
He's my
Josh
fantasy
Allen,
team.
never really got going. 122 yards passing. The running game never got going. Whereas maybe someone who could be a key in this game, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the rookie running back, had 160 rushing yards in this game. Something you don't really see from the Chiefs running backs these days. But
Is he available?
Yeah, that's up in the air still. It's
Yeah,
up in
because
the
I
air.
didn't know that.
Him
Okay,
and Le'Veon Bell are both questionable.
somebody needs to
Um,
play. You think?
so let's talk about what we think the keys to the for the Bills and the keys for the Chiefs. Let's start with the Bills. What do we think the keys are for the Bills to come out and win this game?
They got to slow down the Chiefs. And I don't know if it means like have a great drive, because if you're going to score if you're Allen, but you're going to have to either methodically do it and keep them off the field, or you're just going to have to blitz Mahomes on every down. You got to get to him. You got to make him feel uncomfortable. He's so good at dropping back and just play action pass down the field or dink and dunk, right? He takes those
Yeah.
passes. So I have slowed down the passing game. And I thought of this really, really interesting point. What about scoring 21 or more points? You got to put up points. You can't kick field goals. You got to go out there and attack them. And Allen to John Brown, Allen to Stephon Diggs. He's the best receiver in the NFL this year. Those guys got to have big days, I think. They're my keys for the Bills. As far as the Chiefs, you got to play with confidence, have that swagger about you. You just won another championship last year, Super Bowl win. And there's not a lot the Chiefs got to do. I just think they got to play their game. And if they play their game, we could look at a repeat champion here in the end. They're really good.
Well, as far as the Bills, um, somehow they need to get a running game going. They just have been way too one dimensional. I see the stat that they've dropped back 73% of the time this postseason. And they don't have the running backs to do it, unfortunately. Is it going to be Josh Allen doing everything? I don't know. The Chiefs pass defense isn't great. So of course you're going to be saying, let's get the ball to Stephon Diggs, who has been one of the best wide receivers in all of football recently. Um, but you said it. There's you got to keep the Chiefs off the field, and the only way you can do that is keeping the clock and not letting them get on the field. And that'll be very interesting if they can get some sort of running game going, whether it's Josh Allen himself or whether it's Singletary who gets in there as well. But um, as far as keys for the Chiefs, I'm going to go the other way. I think that's uh, Tyrann Mathieu for the Chiefs. And he's probably going to be the one who's going to be the spy, who's going to be checking out Josh Allen running the ball. And if he goes to run, he's going attacking him. So,
He's a hard hitter too. He hits
yes.
hard. Yeah, he's
So,
really good.
and I mean, I've never been a huge fan of the Buffalo defense. Um, as long as you're getting Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey, the ball, and Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins may even play this week. They're not sure yet. Um, and then the two running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Le'Veon Bell. Joe, well, obviously, do you have any more keys for Kansas City to win this game
I
before
mean,
we give our predictions?
listen, if Hilaire's healthy or even if Bell's healthy, one of them's got to be healthy. They got to at least try to like get yards on the ground, because if the Bills do affect Allen, it's going to be hard to pass the ball 40 times. So you got to somehow have a running game against Kansas City. I think other than that, I guess I'm ready to make my prediction if you want me to do that.
Go for it.
And my prediction is, as much as I've been all over Buffalo and I've said, Derek, you got to pick them one week. You got to help your girlfriend out, showing her that you're ready to go to Buffalo to watch the Super Bowl. I think the Buffalo Bills story ends Sunday night. I don't think they have enough. I think they're really good, but Kansas City will be going to the 2021 Super Bowl. They're going to win this game.
I really think the only hope was if Mahomes wasn't playing. I don't see them.
Yeah.
And I've said it for a few weeks now, if the Bills defense was a little bit better, They may have kept the Ravens to 3 points, but if you truly go back and look at the stats, the Ravens had more rushing yards. They had more passing yards. They had more first downs. They had more time of possession. They just had costly turnovers. And the Chiefs aren't one to turn the ball over. I think it will be high scoring. I'm going to go probably around 31 to we'll keep it close, 31-27. We'll say something like that. But I think it's going to be the Chiefs moving on.
I actually thought 34-24. That was what I was thinking. 10, a touchdown and a field goal. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Well, Derek, we're going to go to the NFC and we're going to go to your Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. They're playing in the frigid cold, probably 20 degrees at kickoff at 3 o'clock. Well, we're actually going to be at 40 degrees here in Easton, but they're going to be 20 degrees. It's on Fox. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman have the game. It's going to be a really good game, I think. But if you look back to week 6, Derek, it was a 38-10 rout, and it was all Tampa Bay. For that not to happen, Derek, please give us your keys to your Green Bay Packers.
Well, the let's see, the temperature was
probably 85.
Oh, no, they don't tell me the temperature down
87.
I thought they were going to tell me the temperature, but early October, probably going to be in the 70s. Well, that's one key.
Okay, weather.
Thing is, the defense is playing a lot better than they were when they were playing at Tampa Bay then. The running game is a lot better. Aaron Rodgers and probably the whole team played the worst game they could possibly play.
It was dreadful.
And it was pretty. They were actually up 10-0 in that game.
I remember that,
and it was pretty exciting. And then I think they put on 38 straight. The Buccaneers did. I guess you wonder though, who is under the most pressure to win this game? Is it Tom Brady and the Buccaneers or Aaron Rodgers and the Packers? I'd probably say Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. They're the better team. They have the better record. Tom Brady's won 7 Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers has won 1.
Right.
So they probably have the better team right now. Also, no Antonio Brown in this game. That would have been why I would have said the Buccaneers may give them some problems, because there's a lot of weapons. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Fournette, Gronk, who had
Howard.
70 yards and a touchdown the first time around. I don't think there's anyone who's stopping Devontae Adams. No one has done it all season. I really don't think that the Buccaneers have someone who can do it. They took Michael Thomas out of the game, but I really don't think Michael Thomas was Michael Thomas this year. I think we're going to find out he was probably pretty injured. So before I give my predictions, Joe, any keys for, the whole game?
Yeah. Well, first for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers has got to be Aaron Rodgers. And you don't usually see him not be Aaron Rodgers. I think he's got to find, I said this last week, and I'm sticking to it. He can't just go to Adams. I think they're going to try to double team him at times. They might throw some zones in there, which I'm sure Rodgers will pick apart. But St. Brown, Alan Lazard, Robert Tonyan, these guys got to catch the football. They got to make plays. Aaron Jones, Jamal,
Williams,
thank you. Those guys got to make plays. So I do think, though, you're right. The Bucs defense has gotten better, but how much better do they get? Let's be honest. This game is going to come down to third down conversions. It's going to come down to the quarterbacks. It's really hard to pick against Tom Brady. I'd love to pick the Packers for you. I'm rooting for Green Bay. I'm not going to lie. But I do think Tampa Bay gets out with a 7-point win. I think it's going to be like 28-21. I just don't – Gronk hasn't had a big postseason. Look for him to be big in this game. I just don't know if they don't isolate him on a a linebacker, God forbid. And then you got Mike Evans out there and Godwin, like you said. I don't know. Something just screams to me that Brady gets it done in the cold weather. He shuts up critics, and they're playing their home game in Raymond James
Right.
Stadium in 2 weeks, which is just ridiculous if you ask me. But it is what it is. But that's my prediction for this game.
Um, Man, I've thought about it, but I gotta go with the Packers. I gotta pick the Packers.
I don't blame you.
I really don't think anyone can stop Devontae Adams, and we'll see that. But I am saying I'm gonna go
Close.
with a game-winning drive, maybe for Aaron
Aaron
Rodgers.
Rodgers. There it
We'll
is.
say 27-23 will be my pick,
Wow.
and
Okay.
maybe a game-winning cut, or maybe it might technically be 26-23 because, or depending if it's last minute. But so Chiefs, Buccaneers for you, Chiefs, Packers for me,
Packers. So it's
which
similar.
means it'll probably be some version of the Bills and the other team. So look for that to happen.
Brady against his old foe.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true, against the Bills.
Think about had to go through Buffalo.
So yes, those games will be both on Sunday. Buccaneers and Packers are at 3 o'clock, and then 6:40 will be the AFC game on CBS. Bills and Chiefs. Moving on, Joe. Moving on to a little bit of MLB Hot Stove. Because since we've
Get up.
last talked about it, what was it, just last week?
Flurry
A
of
ton of
things.
stuff.
Flurry, yeah, right?
That's why they call it the hot stove, though, I guess. So,
They do.
first move to talk about, in no particular order here, really. The Nationals went out and signed John Lester. I believe that was just a 1-year deal, $5 million, mutual option for 2022. It is. So if both Lester and the Nationals want to go for it, he can sign on. Joe, the rotation is lining up there for the Nationals, and they're getting pretty scary. They also signed Ryan Zimmerman back, so he'll be back this year. He didn't
Their
play.
leader.
He left for, didn't want to play for the COVID season. But Max Scherzer, Patrick Corbin, Steven Strasburg, and now John Lester and Joe Ross lined up behind Washington. Where do we think that puts them in the very strong NL East?
I mean, it could be them. It could be them and the Marlins and the Phillies fighting for that third and fourth spot. I want to say we don't know yet about Philadelphia and what exactly they are doing per se. The Nationals, though, getting Lester gives you a veteran. He's a cancer survivor. He's a fighter. He's a former Red Sox. He's a former Cub. Big lefty. But again, it is that low risk, high reward, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
know all you're going to get from him. I like John Lester. Listen, I mean, he's a really good pitcher. But this is a guy at like what, 38 years old now?
Yes.
So
37.
the national you or 37. So you said it. Strasburg, Scherzer, Corbin. They got formidable guys. They're a very tough rotation. My prediction is though, the Marlins are starting to win. I think the Nationals lineup's not that good. I mean, they have Soto and they have Turner. We're going to talk about this all coming up on future shows. I think Washington ends up in fourth. I somehow think that the Marlins actually could be the third place team this year, with my Phillies in last, of course. But yeah, so that's it's going to be an interesting division though, definitely. So, any thoughts on Lester though before we move on, Derek? Do you want to
Well,
throw a thought in there? Or?
his ERA has been climbing the past few years, so we'll see if he's any better than a fifth starter. But would have been interesting to see him maybe go back to Boston. The Cubs clearly have no use
Yeah.
for him with them trading off. So, but that's a good Hey, good lefty piece in there. So John Lester, potentially there for 2 years.
So we're gonna go to a team that me and you keep saying has won the offseason. And if you look at their starting rotation right now, their ace is Blake Snell. Their number two is Yu Darvish. Their number three is the guy they just traded for, and Joe Musgrove. Number four is Dilson Lamette. And number five is Chris Paddock. Derek, there was a time where Chris Paddock was looked at to be number one or two. He's number
Yeah.
five right now. I, in like, like what's going on in San Diego? So just give our listeners a little bit of what you think about the Musgrove move, because that ended up being a 3-team trade.
Yeah, so the Padres got Musgrove. I know Joey Lucchesi. I can never say his last name. I am not too
It's
sure.
pretty good. Me too.
Um, is
Lucchesi,
going
yeah.
to the Mets, who should be interesting. I mean, he's got talent. A nice, huge curveball. Um, but couple guys I know going to the Pirates. Then obviously, Omar Cruz. I'm not 100% sure about these guys,
Yeah.
um, but Musgrove is the big name in the deal. And hey, until I mean, he's got a 4.33 lifetime ERA. Like he's a 4 or 5 starter. Until one Mike Clevenger comes back, who could be middle of season. He comes back, another
San
number
Diego.
one starter.
My God.
Uh, so it'll be interesting. I mean, not a huge move, but enough to give the Padres some
Yeah.
depth
That's it.
in their
Yep.
bullpen, which is kind of or in their starting rotation. I still think they
Scary.
might need to clean up the bullpen a little bit, but um, the rotation and the
The
starting
lineup.
lineup seem to be pretty set.
Yeah.
Well, that'll bring us to very interesting what came forward this past week. The Mets actually fired their general manager, Jared Porter. He was involved in scandal. You can go out and check it out, but probably a good thing that Steve Cohen just went and said, you know what, you're gone, no tolerance for that. Um, but in terms of sports, that leaves the GM with no, or the Mets with no GM right now. Obviously, Sandy Alderson's still there, so it's not like they don't have a GM presence. But where do the Mets go from here, Joe? And does this any way affect the off season? Do you think, or they'll probably they'll fill in that position quick and make some moves regardless?
Well, Alderson and Cohen are so pivotal to their organization. Alderson knows what he's doing. Cohen is the billionaire with all the money, and we already saw what they've done so far. Um, let's just say that I think they addressed the bullpen because they have Familia back, although he's a loose cannon for a personality. Like that guy, I don't
Yeah.
know if I trust him. He's something. But even the guy they traded for from your Mariners there, Edwin Diaz, he's been up and down. So they're looking at Brad Hand. I don't know if they get him because I think other teams really want him. He's coveted. I wouldn't I wouldn't be a surprise though the way they've gone. They got McCann very kind of sneakily. They went and they did a good job acquiring Mr. Lindor, and now you're talking about them even trying to get a center fielder possibly. What about the fact that they get a bullpen piece and still get that center fielder? What happens if they go get a Jackie Bradley Jr. or a Kevin Kiermaier? Both those guys are leaders. Both those guys are really good players, and both those guys are coming from the AL East.
Mhm.
So would not shock me. Um, I don't see another trade. I hope not as a Phillies fan, unless they get a third baseman, which they could do. But no, this isn't going to affect them. That was your original question. I know this isn't going to affect them, but it's a sad situation. And I'm glad you said I don't want to touch on it any more than I've read about it and or heard about it. And just a
Yeah.
disgusting situation. So that being said, we're going to go on to the Los Angeles Angels or Anaheim Angels. I always forget what they're called these days.
Los
They
Angeles Angels
actually,
of Anaheim.
The Anaheim. It's the both of it. The LA
Right.
Anaheim Angels.
Yes. Yes.
Unbelievable. They got another Cubs guy, Derek, a guy that they weren't going to sign, left-hander Jose Quintana. I like him. He's a really good lefty. They have Dylan Bundy, Andrew Heaney, and then Quintana, Shohei Ohtani's also up there, and Griffin Canning. Derek, who would you say fits into this rotation? We forgot to mention the
Um.
guy too for the Mets, but they're after Bauer a little bit. But
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. He could end, and I was about to say it doesn't really do too much. Unfortunately, most of those guys, I mean, Bundy had a very good year last year, and Heaney's kind of up and down, but they're really a lot of number three starters,
yeah, there's no
maybe
one.
and back end.
Right.
Um, be very interested to see what Shohei Ohtani does moving forward. Does he even go back to pitching? We don't know. Um, but I mean, Quintana's nice. He'll eat up innings for you. Granted, he got injured last year. I don't know, like he lacerated his hand or something doing dishes. Or I heard, I don't know,
Crazy.
but
Yeah, something weird.
he's good for 150, 60 innings and getting you a 4 ERA. Nothing much better. That's what he's good for. And I think they need to do more, like we just said, and maybe that is Bauer. That'll completely change things if it's Bauer, but otherwise, okay, all right, nice move. But
I'd rather him go to Anaheim. I'm not gonna lie. Anywhere but
yeah,
New York right now, Derek. You can
yeah,
even go to the Yankees for as I'm concerned.
yeah.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right on that. And I think we're gonna move to another interesting name, but somebody that's not like gonna jump off the pages, but that's the Twins just signed left-hander J.A. Happ, who is a former Phillies prospect, and he actually pitched for the Phillies, the Yankees, the Blue Jays. I want to say
Mariners.
maybe they're the Mariners. He's been around.
Yeah,
Derek, does this help them a lot, or they still have a little work to do? Maybe. I mean, he's okay. What does it do
yeah.
for?
No, I mean um, they still need some back end rotation depth. Um, Randy Dobnak is their number five
Oh,
starter. Hap might
Randy
be their
Dobnak.
four. They have Maeda, Barrios, and Pineda are a solid 1, 2, 3, but they need a little bit more. I don't know if J Hap will even make it through the season. He's
Guess who they were?
probably at the
Get
tail end of his career now, being 38 over
yeah,
38
yeah.
years old. So
Well, guess who they were scouting? I heard they're going to try to look at Jake Arrieta, and I will pray to God that they sign
that's
Jake
a very
Arrieta.
yeah. Well, that's an
Even I mean,
interesting one.
he's decent, but he just wanted way too much money at the back end of his career, and he never performed up to the capabilities that he probably should have. But I will say for Minnesota, it's not a bad move. Jake Odorizzi's out there, and he's a really interesting name. And I keep saying that he lands somewhere probably in the National League, but Minnesota's had him already, so
Yeah.
it could be a marriage there. I mean, possible.
So
So
yeah, probably
yeah,
a little bit
happens.
more to do. A little bit more to do for the Twins, I think, to especially with the White Sox making a bunch of moves, and
Yeah.
obviously the Indians are going to drop down. So it's really going to probably be the Twins and White Sox for the Central Division. Um, Joe, two huge and let's not count out the Blue Jays yet, as far as maybe the biggest
No.
movers
Oh
off
no.
season. Two huge moves for the Toronto Blue Jays, and we'll just kind of combine them into one here. 6-year, $150 million deal for George Springer, who will be the starting center fielder for the Toronto Blue Jays. And then they also brought in, by the way, arguably the best closer on the market. Maybe you could say Liam Hendricks. But Kirby Yates is another one who's very good. And I believe, is a 1 year, a little over $8 million deal. So, Joe, what does this do for the Blue Jays' aspirations in the AL East? Obviously, I guess we still got to have the Red Sox and the Orioles trending towards the bottom, but does this put Toronto, who is a little bit behind the Yankees and the Rays, Are they up there now? Are they better? I guess we'll still have to see.
Yeah, two things real quick. Number one, if they would sign either or of JT Realmuto or Trevor Bauer, they become probably just as good as those teams because Bauer gives you the ace you need, which they don't have right now. Ryu would be number 2, I would assume. To me, that's a huge move. I know he hasn't been linked to them, but just they're after everybody, and they really haven't done a heck of a lot until they got Springer and Yates. So they're still not done, I don't think. Realmuto is really interesting though, because he would go in that lineup and he would hit fifth no matter what, because even though they have the good hitters, they still would need him to be in the middle. So he would be really, unless they put him towards the top, which I guess they could do. He's not slow. I think they make a trade. I think they're going to make a trade. They have too many guys. Think about it for a second. Wouldn't Chris Bryant look good at third base? He's more agile than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But wouldn't Vladimir Guerrero Jr. do a good job in Chicago?
Oh yeah, they have Vladimir Guerrero. Yeah,
I'm just saying. I wonder if one of these guys gets moved, even like a Randall Grichuk, who started his career in St. Louis. Like, there's just something to Toronto. They're doing something. Like, I'm not saying they're San Diego or the Mets, but they're getting close to becoming really competitive and really interesting real fast. Like, I mean, it's taken nowhere for them to get this good. Do you know? You don't see it this fast. They develop.
I mean, I said to you off the air, I hope that they do more, because I don't understand these big moves because you said their rotation currently looks like Ryu, Robbie Ray, Nate Pearson, Tanner Roark, and Ross Stripling, all guys who have not really been, except for Ryu, who have not really been pitching that well.
But right. What did I just say too? Right there, though, I told you, if you send Guerrero, and I'm not saying Biggio or Bichette, you probably need to keep one. Guerrero and a couple prospects to the Cubs and ask for Hendricks and Bryant, that doesn't make sense. I mean, come on. Like, you then have your number 2, and you have Bryant, who could play a very capable third base. And he's an MVP.
Yeah, I mean, they did another minor signing. They signed Tyler Chatwood, who's probably going to be someone in relief, and maybe a long inning guy. I just, I don't know. I really,
maybe
I wasn't sure with the immediate need to push. And I mentioned, especially with Kevin Biggio being young, Bichette is 22. Vladimir Guerrero isn't even 22. Why those are good? You're going to be building around those guys. Why really go for it now when the Yankees are kind of at their peak and the Rays are obviously towards their peak? I thought maybe they could have waited a little bit to make the moves, but if that's all they do, I'd be disappointed. If they go for it more, I'd be like, okay, now I understand.
Do you think Toronto, though, is saying to themselves that with Boston being down, we have to compete with Tampa and the Yankees? But the Yankees, remember, they have Garrett Cole for so long. They're going to keep on trying to, even if they can't sign Judge in a couple years. And again, tune into our show, Timeout. Tune in the next couple weeks and months, because we're going to go over all these rosters of all these Major League Baseball teams. You're right. The Yankees need to do more, and they have to continue to reload, but they're going to reload, and they do it really well.
Yeah.
They do it better than anybody in the sport. And we know that. Like, we've seen it. So I think Toronto's saying we got to do something. We got to do it now. But hey, they're interesting though. They're being talked about.
And I guess Toronto doesn't have the luxury of having a ton of down years in a row, right? Like Boston obviously can have a couple years down in a row and people are going to come back and go Red Sox. But
no, it's a hockey.
Blue Jays just continue to be bad and bad and bad.
Yeah, you got to get good. No, it's not good. Definitely not.
Before we go to the last guy here, there have been talks about, I've seen James Paxton, lefty, former Mariner, former Yankee, potentially looking to go to the Blue Jays. Canadian guy, so they may get him at a discount if they if they go for him. He would be a nice guy to slot in there as well.
Absolutely. Well, Derek, the last guy has come, and I have to say that I was highly disappointed when he went off the board because I was hoping for my Phillies to grab him. I love this hitter. It's Michael Brantley, and he's going to the Astros, and it's 2 years, 32 million. I thought that was a lot. He must have asked for that second year because if I'm the Astros, I know he's a good player and he's a good hitter, but he's also aging a little bit now. This is a former Indians prospect.
Yeah.
I had to remind myself of that. I forgot that. And then he went to Houston, and he's been a heck of a hitter. What are your thoughts about Michael Brantley? He's going to help Houston, but they still got something. They might get Bradley. That's another team to maybe get Jackie Bradley Jr. But yeah,
Well, and I don't know that I didn't read the complete story, but he was almost also to Toronto,
yeah,
Michael
real quick, yeah,
Brantley,
yeah,
but it didn't go through, I know, for
right.
some reason, and then the Astros ended up getting in there. Which is good because if they, and a couple weeks ago you mentioned one person leaves, the dominoes could start to fall.
Springer's
And
gone.
Springer leaves, and maybe if just Brantley left, maybe not this off season, but maybe in future off seasons, you might see other key guys leave, and then the Astros start to fall a little bit.
Yep.
Um, Now with Brantley still in there, he is 33, he's getting a little older, but he's shown to be a pretty good hitter still.
Right.
Lefty in that lineup. You still got Altuve. You still got Bregman. Still got
Yep.
Correa. Let's not forget Jordan Alvarez, big bopper out there in Houston.
Who
Um,
plays center?
yeah. Well, right now they have someone named Miles Straw. I'm not 100% sure who that is,
Must be
but
a young kid.
yeah, yeah, they still need probably someone to fill in that spot. They did just sign Jason Castro
I saw that two
to a
years. Yeah.
deal, so it'll probably be him and Maldonado will be the 1-2 catchers. Yeah, well, honestly, Joe, I'm really interested to get into breaking down the divisions a lot more because a lot of moves I don't even know are happening that
True.
you just
True.
look at the teams like, oh my God, they're a completely different team. So it'll be interesting going forward. But that'll do it for the half episode championship week preview, recap of divisional playoffs, and a little more hot stove. Not entirely sure where the episodes go from here with football going down. We might have to dive right into baseball. Maybe a little college basketball, maybe a little NBA. We'll see how we feel. But Joe, before we sign off, any last thoughts? As always.
Yeah, I'll say this. I was really listening to what you just said about where we'll dive in, but I think it's pretty simple that some of these stories are going to take a life of its own. There was just a story about Notre Dame, and I hate to say this, but it's not
Yeah.
looking good. There's recruiting violations, and that's something you can't do. If it's not Brian Kelly, that's one thing. If it's an assistant coach, though, you're still under Brian Kelly. So they fired him real quick. But that's not good news about my Fighting Irish. But yeah, college basketball is going to get interesting, even though it's been kind of a slow year with COVID. A lot of guys can't play, canceled games. And we'll still talk about, baseball is going to come into full focus, especially after February 7th. But next week on our show on Monday, we'll tell you right now, it's going to be some baseball. And if there's more signings and trades, we're going to be all over it. So if you love baseball, it's for you. If not, well, I guess you'll wait till the next show then. But anyway, we do appreciate all the listeners, and please like and comment, and like we always say, we enjoy doing the show. And Derek, we got one more in the books.
I am going to hint. It is a ways out. We've talked about it with Joe, but look for something March Madness related over the next few weeks. We're gonna try to get something going and get a little competition out there amongst everyone. If you want to be involved, more details to come. We haven't really worked it out yet, but it's something we've talked about. So look for that moving forward if you like free stuff. But anyways, anyways, that'll do it for today for our, wow, we are on 21 and a half. This is number episode. So we thank everyone for your continued support. We're available everywhere, everybody. We're on YouTube. Follow us there. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That way, any new episodes that come up, you'll be immediately notified of them. We're on all podcast platforms. And of course, we're on Facebook as well under Timeout, Derek and Joe. As always, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Stay safe and take care.